right, welcome to the Young Turks. Big show ahead for you guys, of course, as always. President Obama apparently is going to get tough during the re-election fight. We have his newfound strategy and how they plan to attack who they perceive to be their main opponent. That's a little bit later in the program. By the way, Rick Perry's coming. That's a little later in the program. And has President Obama reached his tipping point? That is what I argued yesterday in a blog that I wrote, and there's been a lot of reaction to that blog today, both positive and negative. We'll share all of that with you guys, and I'll give you the evidence, okay? But before we do anything else, the biggest news in the world right now is the London riots. And now, of course, it's spread past London. The United Kingdom has seen 3 nights in a row of rioting. As we go live here, they are worried about a 4th night of rioting, but we don't have the latest on that simply because it's nighttime, about to be nighttime right now in England. So, so far we already have 500 arrests. We have at least 44 police injured. We have at least 14 bystanders injured. There's someone who was shot in the head and died later, but we don't know what it is, if it's connected to the rioting at all or not, right? So now we've discussed this yesterday, and it's only gotten bigger and bigger since then. And I said that it was a combination of factors. I absolutely positively stand by that, which is that people are growing a little hopeless. They're very frustrated by police mistreatment in some of these minority neighborhoods in London. And we have tremendous unemployment, not just in London, but not just among the youth, but also among minorities. And when you put them all together, it creates a sense of hopelessness, especially when combined with the tuitions now being tripled because of the austerity programs in the United Kingdom. If you think those programs have nothing to do with that sense of frustration, I think you're entirely wrong. Obviously, also related to somebody in the neighborhood getting shot, a man by the name of Duggan, and killed by the police, frustration about that. Now, what I found to be interesting is a report on the BBC where they were interviewing a West Indian gentleman, and I thought he had some really interesting points to make. He could hardly make them through the BBC reporter badgering him in ways that I found to be amazing. So let's get that started.
Marcus Dow, are you shocked by what you've seen there last night?
No, not at all. I have been living in London for 50 years. There are so many different moods and moments. But what I was certain about, listening to my grandson and my son, is that something very, very serious was going to take place in this country. Our political leaders had no idea. The police had no idea. But if you looked at young blacks and young whites with a discerning eye and a careful hearing, they have been telling us, and we would not listen, that what is happening in this country to them.
Mr. Howe, if I can just stop you, Mr. Howe, for a moment.
All right, now she's about to get into some interesting questions. Now, that's Darkus Howe. He is a writer and a broadcaster of West Indian descent. And so he's saying, look, if you actually looked at the streets and you talked to the real people who lived here, this would not have come as a surprise to you because of this building frustration. Now, her line of questioning gets bizarre. Let's watch.
You say you're not shocked. Does this mean that you condone what happened in your community last night?
I condone, of course not. What I'm going to condone it for, what I'm concerned about more than anything else, there is a young man called Mark Duggan. He has parents, he has brothers, he has sisters, and few yards away from where he lives, a police officer blew his head off.
Well, Mr. Howe, we have to.
Let me finish.
Mr. Howe, we have to wait for the official inquiry before we can say things like that. We don't know what happened to Mr. Duggan. We are going to wait for the police report on it.
Right, but he's explaining the frustration of the people in the street who believed that Duggan's head was blown off. She's like, whoa, take it easy there, we'll wait for the official inquiry. Okay, that part, you can say, hey, look, she's doing her job, making sure you got both sides of the story. But that first question, you're not shocked by it, or does that mean you're condoning it? No, he's just telling you what led up to it. Why would that mean that he's condoning it? And was as flummoxed as I was by that. He's like, why would I be condoning it? Look at the, almost saying, look behind me. I mean, look at all the damage that was done. Of course he's not condoning it. You have him on for an interview trying to explain why it happened. Will you let the man explain? Look, here's another great example that he brought up in the interview.
They have been stopping and searching young blacks for no reason at all. I have a grandson, he's an angel, and he began to think he was coming of age when the police slapped him up against the wall and searched him, and he thought he had now had a gold star. I asked him the other day, apropos of a sense that something was going seriously wrong in this country. I said, how many times have the police searched you? He said, Papa, I can't count. There's so many times.
Look, what he's trying to explain is that deep-seated, we can't take it anymore. Like, we haven't done anything wrong. This kid is, a part of a good family. His father is, his grandfather obviously is a journalist, and he's trying to get to school, get back from school, constant searches. And you begin to think, why are they picking on us? So when something explodes, it doesn't mean that it's right that it explodes. If you're looking into the reason why, these are pretty compelling reasons why you might want to pay attention to that and to address it. But that's not the direction this reporter is going to go. Look at this last exchange.
If that is not an excuse to go out rioting and cause the sort of damage that we have been seeing over the last few days.
Where were you in 1981 in Brixton? They had I don't call it rioting, I call it an insurrection of the masses of the people.
Mr. Howe, if I can just ask you, you are not a stranger to riots yourself, I understand, are you? You have taken part in them yourself.
I have never taken part in a single riot. I've been on demonstrations that ended up in a conflict, and have some respect for an old West Indian Negro and stop accusing me of being a rioter. Because you won't tickle me to get abusive. You just sound idiotic. Have some respect.
Dorcas Howe,
grandchildren.
Thank you very much for joining us from Croydon. Dorcas Howe, their writer and broadcaster.
All right, listen. So he says, I've been part of demonstrations, which is, of course, you're right, in the UK, here in the US, of course, and it's all in the framing. She frames it as, well, if you were part of a demonstration, well, then you must have been part of riots. She says, I understand you've been part of riots. No, do you know what a riot is? Riot is when you go, and a guy like him, you think, is going out there grabbing people, beating them up, looting stores, burning things. No, he's saying, look, I am concerned about what is happening. I'm trying to relay that concern to you, and then you turn around and tell me, oh, I hear you're a well-known rioter. He's like, well, I didn't say, where did you get that from? And look, he used the word insurrection, which was interesting, right? And now that's the kind of words that people do not like. They say, well, that must mean that he's condoning X, Y, or Z. No, what he's telling you is people have had enough. And this is an unfortunate way that that has been shown. He says over and over, he wishes it hadn't happened. But can we address the underlying problems? Now, look, were there people who looted during these riots? Absolutely. Okay. Should they have done so? Of course not. These things are obvious. I believe they're obvious, right? But it's the focus, right? So now the press is focusing all on the looters. And don't worry about the underlying reasons. Why did this unbelievable, situation occur? Yeah, we'll get to that later. But let's focus the blame on the right people here, which are the people who are doing the looting, as if the looting was the purpose behind the riots, as if the looting was what started the riots. My sense of it is there's no question that there was looting, and it happened as, after the fact of these demonstrations turned violent, which they never should have, and then led to rioting, then led to looting. Now, the UK seems to be focused on these particular people as they got interviewed talking about the looting. And again, I think they've taken the wrong message from that. Let's take a quick look here.
Everyone was just going to riot, just going mad, like chucking things, chucking bottles,
breaking into stuff, breaking into shop. It was madness.
Yeah, it was good though.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah. So you're drinking a bottle of rosé wine.
At 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, free alcohol. Have you been drinking all night?
Yeah. Like, it's the government's fault.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Conservatives.
Yeah, whatever who it is, I
It's
don't
not
know.
even a right, it's showing the police we can do what we want.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, showing the police we can do what we want, and now we have.
So do you reckon it will go on tonight?
Yeah, hopefully, hopefully.
But there's like local people. I mean, why is it targeting local people and your own people?
It's the rich people. It's the rich people, the people that have got businesses, and that's why all of this has happened, because of the rich people. So we're just showing the rich people that we can do what we want.
Look, I don't condone any of what they're saying. It's free alcohol. We had good fun was had, and they obviously took the alcohol when they shouldn't have, and they shouldn't be doing any of this. I mean, you see, and burning down quote-unquote rich people's stores is outrageous. Probably most of the stores they're burning down are people who are working their ass off to get those stores up and running. Having said that, look, again, it's not to condone it even 1%. It's to understand it. When you look at what they're saying, what do you get? You get a frustration with the police. You get a frustration with the rich. Now, you say, hey, they're pouring that frustration in all the wrong ways. I agree with you. But can you understand the frustration, and can we do something about it? Instead of just saying, oh, yeah, you see that's how these people are, and just moving on beyond it. I think that there is something real there. I think it's not a coincidence that we are seeing this throughout the world as people that are getting crushed in the lower classes continue to get crushed, continue to get the burden put on them, and the rich over and over again, whether it's the banks or whoever it might be, say we will not share in that pain at all. You know, the growth in the first half of the year in the UK was 0.8%. Why is that? Because of austerity measures. Austerity measures have hurt the unemployed the worst, the poor and the middle class the worst. And by the way, it has hurt the overall economy in the UK. Now they're saying, hey, you know what? It turns out our budget didn't even get any better, according to the projections. Why didn't it get any better? Because, well, we had to pay more unemployment because the economy got worse, more unemployment, more checks going out from the government, unfortunately. Second of all, when you have more unemployment, you have less revenue coming into the government. So the austerity measures are not working. And you know, you see it in Greece, you see it here in the UK, and I think at some point somebody should wake up and go, hey, are we headed in the right direction? That's one of the lessons I get from this. I wish that the rest of the media would focus on that as well as the looters. JR, did you want to jump in on that? No? Okay. Because JR found that second clip that I found to be interesting. And by the way, that first interview I thought was fascinating was sent in by one of our listeners through a tweet, and I really appreciate that. All right, we got to take a quick break here, come back and do some domestic stories.
I have like two.
All right, back on the Young Turks. I cannot go without the whole show without saying go vote in Wisconsin. I don't know if they're still voting. Are they still voting? I think they are. So we don't have the results yet, obviously, because they'll come in after the show is done. But recall elections, 6 Republicans being recalled in Wisconsin today, enormously important. You know that the largest amount of money spent in a statewide election in Wisconsin was in 2008 when they spent $20 million for just these recalls.
Jeez.
Okay, 9 overall, right? Mm-hmm. 3 Democrats, 6 Republicans. They've already spent $33 million.
Wow.
That's amazing. That goes to show you how much people care about this, you know, on our side and the other side, because this is their big moment to crush the opposition, to crush the unions, etc. And if they can get away with it, they're going to think it's a huge, huge victory. So, I mean, if you're anywhere near Wisconsin, go, go, go. By the way, you know, we do have one fun thing from this. Randy Hopper is one of the guys who's most likely to lose. He's one of the Republicans. This is the hanky-panky guy. The guy, you know, his wife and his maid signed the petition against him.
Yes.
Somebody got caught up with him, and he was not in a happy mood. So let me just, this is fun. This is clip number 6.
Really? Whoa. Listen, get away from my face. Really, Hopper? You just walked up to me and told me to get away from your face?
It was awesome.
So amused by that video.
Yeah, and in case you missed it, he said, I'm going to ruin you for every fucking thing you've done.
When did he say that? I didn't even catch it.
Yeah, he said it right in the beginning. Here, we'll play it again.
screw you for every fucking thing you do.
Really? Whoa, 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 whoa. Listen, get away from my face. Really, Hopper? You just walked up to me and told me to get away from your face?
Okay.
That was awesome because he got in his face.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get away from your face if you weren't like an inch away from me.
And it's also such a juvenile thing to say, like, get away from my face. Like I think of this as like, you know, the beginning of some sort of schoolyard brawl.
Right.
You know, get away from my face, or else.
Yeah, you take your face and you shove your face.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like when they don't know what to say. Okay.
What a loser.
As Wendy would say, I don't want to rub your face on it, but rub it on your face, I should say. See, I even screwed up Wendy's thing. All right, so that's Wisconsin. Go get them. Now let's have a little bit of fun. Now, at the end of last week, Fox Nation decided that they were going to take a dig at President Obama's birthday celebration. Now, President Obama had a lot of people at that celebration, including Stevie Wonder, Herbie Hancock, Tom Hanks. But the headline was, Obama's hip-hop barbecue didn't create jobs. Okay, so there's a couple of different attacks here. One is that apparently his birthday bash was supposed to create jobs, but it didn't. How dare he? I didn't realize that was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. But of course, the one that everybody's talking about is the racial angle here. It's so hip-hop. Okay, so we thought this had died down, but here comes Mike Huckabee to reignite it in a fairly obvious way. Let's watch Huckabee.
I mean, in a week of bleak economic news, President Obama celebrated his 50th birthday. Now, I'm glad the president had such a large time with his friends. And by the way, they think that they all ought to pay more in taxes. So hopefully while they were gathered, they passed one of those great old big hats that one of the hip-hop pals wore. So that way everyone could empty their pockets and open their checkbooks so they can give more to our ever-responsible federal government so the fine folks at the party can bail out our government. Well, I'm sure that happened. So let's get back, Jack. Let's cut the press some slack. His birthday gig might just bring our economy back.
Oh my God.
Was that him?
That was the most unbearable thing I've seen all week.
Was that him being a hip-hop guy with a big hat?
He had a big white cup of something purple or pink earlier. Look at Uger. Grandpa Uger over here. It's a rap lyric.
I wouldn't understand because I don't go to hip-hop barbecues like Obama's. So I've never passed a big hip-hop hat around. What is he referring to?
What's the hip-hop hat?
Is he talking about Flavor Flav? I doubt it, but I mean, Flavor Flav doesn't often wear a hat either.
Well, you know, they all wear oversized clothes, so you must wear oversized hats, too.
Oh, my God.
You know who wears oversized hats is like pimps. Is he referring to that maybe? Who knows? But who knows the mind of like Huckabee and Fox News is they're like, okay, let's find a racial angle to criticize the president. You know the president had some black people over at his birthday party. Yeah, that's because he's black. His family's black. Did you know that? Okay. Is that a scandal at Fox News over there?
Here's the thing. He's a black president, so naturally he would have a hip-hop celebration because any other celebration wouldn't make sense.
Of course. And I know Tom Hanks is a huge hip-hop artist.
Totally.
Right. And by the way, guys that he went to law school with were there, etc. I mean, we don't have to defend it. It's the most obvious thing in the world. But look, this is their way of speaking to their audience. You know how those people are with their hip-hop. And that's what they're wasting their money on when you're in tough economic times.
Right.
Can I give a suggestion to corny-ass people who want to act like they're down or just relating to, like, black folks, hip-hop guys? Uh-huh. Don't ever say Jack. It's just like saying, I'm going to speak some jive. Man, this is not 1972. It's just not. So they say, I'm going to speak to you some jive turkeys about your hip hop, because get back, Jack. What the hell is it? Who's working it? Who wrote this? Seriously.
It's a producer at Fox News. I'm not surprised at all. And remember, they have like an extremely old demographic, so they have to somehow make the old people understand what they're talking about. So for them, Jack is like cutting edge.
It's not like they're going to make a reference to black and yellow, black and yellow.
That would be awesome.
So they're like, this is a good one. This is a good one. Get back, Jack. And we'll rhyme it with slack. JR, they could always hire you as their black correspondent. You know what I'm saying? You could give them some tips.
I would totally take that job. It'd be so fun. And like, it actually be infiltrating and then be there, and they really think I'm serious. And I would just be like going over the top with just like, it'd be like a comedy show every day, and they think, oh, this guy's really on. He knows what he's talking about.
Right, and they'd be like, look, he said it, and he's like the only black guy in the building, so other than Juan Williams. So he must know what he's talking about. All right, we're being a little unfair to Fox, but not much.
No, not much at all. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. I'm just thinking there's probably more than one black guy in the building other than Juan Williams, but no, they bring in those guests every once in a while, you know, like to be like, oh yeah, Sean Hannity, you're so right. You know, oh, Obama, all he wants to do is redistribute the money to black people and poor people. You're so right.
They always have a black person to make those comments.
Yeah, of course, right. All right. Anyway, so now let's get going.
All right. Thomas Fontenberry was a former youth minister in Pasadena, Texas, and in 2007 he secretly videotaped 4 teenagers taking a shower at the church. Now, the reason why this case is coming up now is because since the charges weren't filed against him within the statute of limitations, he might not face any charges at all.
Look, that sucks.
This happened 3 years ago, though. I get it. I understand the reasoning and the logic behind the statute of limitation, right? But in this case, he videotaped 4 teenagers just 3 years ago, okay? The statute of limitations actually expired in November, so he might not face any charges at all. However, if they find a way to make him face charges regardless of the statute of limitations, he's only going to face a maximum of 2 years in prison. He secretly videotaped minors as they were showering in church.
I'm surprised by that because, you know, usually they come down like a ton of bricks because they'll call it child porn, because it is.
Right.
He taped 15-year-olds. It's child porn, right? So only 2 years maximum possible. That's surprising. Statute of limitations exists, right? And it should exist, you know, as you said, Anna. The question is, how long should it be? And I think you could make a case that it should be a little longer here. But, you know, at the same time, if it has gone past the statute of limitations, as terrible as what he did is.
So you just let him go?
Yeah.
Wow, no, I don't agree with that.
But what are you going to do?
I know,
break the law?
There's nothing you can do. No, you change the law.
No,
okay?
no, I know you can change the law, but you can't retroactively apply it to him. That's what sucks.
He's a child predator. Okay, so he's out on the streets and he's doing whatever he wants. By the way, what he did was so disgusting. These 4 teenagers, he like lured them into the church, right, and told them, hey, let's play this game. And he made the game, he modeled the game after Fear Factor, right? So I don't know exactly what they did, but they ended up dousing themselves in honey. And then in the end, they had to take a shower. So it was all like planned out in his head. Like, okay, they're going to be covered in honey. They're going to want to take a shower. As they're showering, I'll videotape them. 2 of the girls were 15. 2 of them were 17.
Right. For some reason, he admitted to them later that he did that, which I'm amazed by, right? But there's also something wrong with the statute of limitations starting to run at the time that he did the crime if he admits it later. So like, you know, and this happens all the time, and every time it feels like it's a horrible miscarriage of justice, and in some ways it is, obviously. In a lot of ways it is. But, you know, what if your statute of limitations is over? Let's say it's for rape, and let's say the statute of limitations was 10 years, right? The only thing that does not have a statute of limitations is murder, okay? You can always be tried for murder. But everything else has statute of limitations. So 10 years later, what if you come out and you're like, yeah, oh, by the way, 11 years earlier, I raped that girl, so what?
But why is it that our priorities in this country are so screwed up, okay, especially when it comes to the justice system? Like, for instance, you know, you have stories about high school seniors facing 8 years in prison for a practical joke that they played on campus, right? But then you have this person who's obviously a child predator, you know, videotaping people without their knowledge. And who knows what he does with those videos? Like, well, we know what he does with them, right? But who knows if he goes even further and, like, leaks them online or shows them to other people that are sexual predators. I mean, how come this guy, even if he does get convicted, only faces 2 years in prison, a maximum of 2 years in prison?
Yeah, one last thing I'll say about it is that if I was a prosecutor, I'd look real hard at any act associated with that crime that would get me to extend the statute of limitations. So, for example, if I can show that he watched that video a year after he taped it, I might be able to make a case to the judge, hey, you know what, the statute of limitations runs based on the last act of that crime and viewing the video as part of the crime. For example, you know, it's imaginative, it's a little creative, right? I don't know if it'll work, but I'd go for it, you know? I'd try to find some way to get this guy off the street.
Let's say that a prosecutor comes up with that type of argument, right? Ultimately, is it the judge's decision whether or not that type of... Man, if I were the judge, I'd be like, where's the gavel?
I have never seen
Not the gavel.
No, that's not the gavel.
But I'd say, you know what? Prosecution, you made a compelling argument, guilty.
Well,
I don't even want to hear the defense.
Right.
This is why I'm not a judge.
I know. This is why she's the hanging judge. Prosecutor's like, on the other hand, Anna's like, yeah, bingo, correct, put the guy in jail. Okay. All right. What's next?
California's prison system is unconstitutionally overcrowded, according to the Legislative Analyst's Office. So what is California doing to help remedy the situation? Are they changing policies? No, they're just transferring prisoners from state prisons to private facilities throughout the country.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Right.
So then those private prisons will make more money. Oh, okay. Well, then everybody's a winner, right? Shocking how that turned out. Huh.
As I'm reading this story, I go through a roller coaster of emotions, okay? So first, I read that the Legislative Analyst's Office is saying, look, these prisons are unconstitutionally overcrowded. We need to do whatever it takes to decrease the number of inmates in state prisons. And I'm like, oh, thank God. They're probably going to propose an end on the war on drugs, or maybe this is California, right? So maybe we end this whole 3-strike policy. There has to be something. All of these tough on crime laws, maybe they're proposing that we change them, right? But no. Their proposals are halt approval of new prison construction until the legislature has reviewed plans to decide if the buildings will be needed after the prisoner reduction. And second, continue transferring inmates to public out-of-state prisons.
Okay.
Fabulous.
By the way, you know that the group that we talked about on yesterday's show, ALEC, the private group that has all these different business interests, including the 2 largest private prison companies in the country, they're also the ones that pushed for the 3 strikes law in California.
Right.
Because if you have a 3 strikes law, you're going to have a lot more prisoners. They're going to make a lot more money. So funny how that goes around. Now, look, I'm not in favor of letting prisoners go because of overcrowding. That makes everyone angry. It makes me angry, and oftentimes we do it in horribly irrational ways. We say, okay, well, we got a new guy who smoked pot, so we got to put him in, and now we let that rapist out. And you're like, no, don't do that. Are you crazy? I don't want to let anybody who hasn't served their full sentence out, okay? But there are rational ways of doing it, like, hey, maybe we should do prevention programs for drug users instead of stuffing all our jails with them. And then there's the way that people are going to make more money. Gee, I wonder which way they were going to go. Of course they were going to go this way, where the people who pay off the politicians make more money and the rest of us all get screwed, as usual.
Right. And if you were convicted of a nonviolent crime, if you were a drug offender, right, but you got caught smoking a doobie in your car or something, a parked car in front of your house or something like that, right, let them go. Like, that's another thing that I would do. Instead of focusing on transferring these prisoners to county jails or private jails, I would do something completely different. You change the policy and you get rid of the people who don't belong in jail in the first place.
Do we still call it a doobie? Is that acceptable, or is okay?
I was gonna keep it to myself because it's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, is that slightly
They
Huckabee-ish?
do. They call it doobie.
It passes.
It passes?
See?
Okay.
Spliff. I didn't mess it up this time.
Yeah. Remember last time.
I know. That was a disaster. Very embarrassing.
Okay. So you're saying if you get caught in a car with a doobie, you should say to the cops,
oh, give me a break.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
All right.
California's Great America, which is an amusement park in California, is being sued over a gay slur on a photo. A man by the name of Edmund Yang was pictured with Craig Person in one of those rides. You know, you take the ride and they take a picture of you. In the ride, they were holding hands. They had their hands up, holding hands, right? Oh, very cute.
Poopy.
And when they exited the ride, they had the option of purchasing that photo, but they decided not to. Later on, as they're hanging out at the amusement park, they go to another ride and they realize their picture is posted and there's a bubble next to them. And the bubble says, "We're fags."
Yeah, okay. Look, I hate those pictures. When they take those pictures without asking you. The reason I hate them is because my wife makes me buy them 80% of the time. Okay? I'm like, I don't want the picture. She's like, oh, let's just take him just in case. I'm like, oh, there goes the money. Okay.
And they're always like $30 or something.
They're always
Something
like insane price. Like you buy a camera for the price of the picture, right? But now, like, well, this is a new level where they're basically blackmailing you. Like, oh, we could, give the picture to somebody else. Like, I mean, they didn't physically do that in this case, but in essence, that's what wound up happening. In fact, their other friends saw their pictures in the booth like that, which is even worse. What if they were closeted? And, I don't even know if they're gay, right? But, well, okay.
What, 2 straight guys can hold hands during a ride?
Jesus, would you hold hands with me during a ride?
Oh my God.
Well, it depends. Is there going to be a picture taken?
Okay, if there is, we might, because that would be funny. Anyway, but of course, we don't think there's anything wrong with it. Assuming they're not closeted, they don't think there's anything wrong with it. But when somebody puts up the picture and says, puts the F word on there, then there's definitely something wrong with it. And so it's obviously terrible. But now, would I sue over it? Again, I'm always in a situation where I can't, if it happened to me, I'd be really mad. But I wouldn't even imagine suing, to be honest with you.
They're suing for sexual harassment. Is this something that can be classified as sexual harassment? I think so. They're in a public place. They're the amusement park or the employees at the amusement park are purposely humiliating this these guys. I was going to say this couple, but we don't know if they're a couple. But they're publicly humiliating these guys just based on the fact that they were holding hands. I consider it harassment, and if they sue, sure, I think that they have the right to sue. And I think that this would deter other employees from doing something similar. Because look, in the future, I don't want pictures like this to be violated, or I don't want people to use these pictures to violate people who are at the amusement parks.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, they're right. Obviously, we all agree. A lawsuit, it just wouldn't have even occurred to me. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to rule in their favor.
You're just anti-lawsuit.
I'm anti-lawsuit. I mean, what do you give them? What do you give them $1,000, $5,000, $10,000? I don't know. What are they suing for? It's like something like $65,000 or something along those lines.
No, it doesn't say how much they're suing for.
What do you guys give them?
Well, what was the picture being used at? Like, were they marketing something, or was it just something to poke fun?
No, some guy just put it up. Like one of the workers there had put it up in his own booth.
Yeah, I don't know how much I give them.
I say 5,000.
Yeah, refund their ticket. Boom, go.
Because I don't want it to be like, okay, let's go get a jackpot because this guy was a jerk.
But they're not doing it to strike it rich. I really don't see this as their intent. You know what I mean? I think that they were truly humiliated and they felt that they were sexually harassed. And I agree with them. I would feel the exact same way. So, look, imagine someone you didn't buy your picture, right? Okay, I got to find something that would be insulting. Okay, you didn't.
No, I know, I get it. It's insulting. You don't have to convince me.
It's like a picture.
But is like an insult worth 5,000 or is it worth 50,000? Do you see what I'm saying? Is it worth 500,000?
I see what you're saying. You get hung up, right?
Yeah.
On the cost of the lawsuit or the amount of money that they're asking for. But in this case, I'm not even thinking about that. Maybe it's because I don't know how much money they're asking for. But look, to me, it's like, were they sexually harassed or not? Yeah, they were sexually harassed. And then whatever the judge decides to give them, the judge decides. I don't think that they're doing it to strike it rich. That wasn't their intent.
Okay.
There are other cases that we've done in the past where, like, someone is emotionally distressed over something completely ridiculous.
I guess part of the reason I bring it up is because, like, from time to time, something will happen. Like, I'll discover a bug in my food or, like, this big, long strand of hair. I don't know, whatever it is, right? It's kind of disgusting. And, like, my instinct is, if it's just a little piece of hair, to go and just see if I like the food, keep eating it. But, like, it's never like, great, moment to sue,
Some people do have that mindset, but this is a completely different
And don't get me wrong, finding hair in your food isn't the same as being.
What if you found
like
a finger?
Again, I don't.
What if you thought that finger was a piece of meat and you were chewing on it and then you realized it was a finger?
That's disgusting.
Okay, would you sue that?
Okay, I would want either a lifetime free food at that restaurant, or I might have to look into getting some representation.
Look at that.
Come on, a finger's pretty bad. On the other hand, this is pretty bad. So,
exactly.
All right, okay, fair enough. We're just having a conversation. Oh, break time. What are you, crazy? All right, come right back. The woman with the twins that aren't twins is the freakiest story.
Yeah.
I love that story.
You do?
I do. You're crazy? We're going to do that.
That's like the